Hello, my fellow readers. This is Dark Symphony 777 with another fan fiction review. As always, a link to the store will be in the description below. Please like the video, subscribe to the channel, click on that bell for notifications, leave a comment in the comment section below on your thoughts on the story. And finally, this is my opinion. My opinion is not indicative of everyone in the world, so please respect that. So, the story I'm doing a review of is From Beyond by Core All Around. Why the fuck is the picture not spawning? Never mind. It is a RWBY fan fiction, and of course, if you know RWBY, you know who Core All Around is. But for those who don't know, he's a very, very prolific RWBY fan fiction. Usually, if like any conversation happens with RWBY fan fiction, his name's gonna get brought up, for better or for worse. And this story is really interesting from a concept sort of stage. So, what is the concept? Well, if you actually ever watched RWBY, and you probably should, at least the first 3 seasons, but what is relevant about watching the first 3 seasons, or specifically just season 1, is a specific moment in I think episode 3, I believe it was either episode 2 or 3, where they're about to do initiation. Basically, Osmond's like, all right, we want you to go into this forest, find a relic, it's chess pieces, and also whoever you have first eye contact with, that's going to be your partner. It's like, okay, we're going to get down there they safely, right? It's like, oh, safely? Glenda? Yes? You have the catapult ready? Yes, we have the studapult. Right? Ready? Ready. Fire! And of course, everyone gets launched from a catapult that Osmond just made into the cliff. Don't ask me why he made a catapult into the cliff. So what happens in canon is everyone's falling. John Ark is kind of panicking and trying to fall. He sees his shirt gets hooked by Pyrrha Nikos' spear, and he gets lodged into a tree. So that way Pyrrha can basically just rescue him, and they can be partners. And then we get this shit at the end of season 3. Poor Pyrrha, she was done dirty. And that's more or less what happens in canon. What happens here is more or less the same thing happens. Osmond takes them to the cliffs. All the students get launched off. They get set flying. Pyrrha throws the spear to try and save John. However, John actually manages to see the spear coming, dodges it, thinks, oh, I'm not going to die, and then dies. Yep, it's right here. See? A whistling in the air caught his attention, even as the tricolite seemed to fly towards him. A sudden flash of fear through his mind had him twisting in midair, dodging what seemed to be a javelin, Pyrrha's weapon, that surely would have hit him. This is actually brought back very late in the story where Pyrrha's like, oh, I only threw the spear because I was trying to save him because he looked like he was panicking. And John, possessing a teddy bear at this point, realizes, that none of this would have happened if he let the goddamn spear hit him. So, what happens after he dies? Well, there's a lot of screaming. A bunch of people get worried but they realize they're hunters. They need to at least try to take care of their own, but they're also trying to, get into like the skull and all that. But one very specific person, says, I'm going to check on the body, which is Blake Belladonna, otherwise known as Blake Bellabooty. Because there ain't no butt like the Bellabooty. I don't know why I'm referencing Blake's butt, but there seems to be like an actual fandom revolving around it. I don't know why. It just is. Point is, Blake runs over to where she heard the scream and sees John dead, getting eaten by a beowulf. She kills the beowulf, and she's like, well, dang, this is awkward. Do I just bury the body or something like that? And then she hears a voice from behind her. It's like, no, I'm sure so nothing's wrong. It's like, huh? And then she turns around. Right there next to her, right there, just slightly behind her, is the ghost of John Ark. Blake promptly screams her ears off because, hey, if If you see a guy leaning down, bleeding, like half eaten, and then you see his ghost behind him, yeah, I'd be pretty freaked out. It's like she could be forgiven for screaming. And that's more or less how the story starts. What happens afterwards is actually a pretty interesting tale. Basically, Blake is the only person who can see and hear John. John can't interact with anyone unless it's specifically through like a physical object. Like half the story he spends in like a little teddy bear, because one of the rules of John being a ghost is he can't physically travel a set amount of distance away from Blake. This is actually implied, and I actually like this detail about the story, plot wise, is that there wasn't really a concrete answer for why he's like this, or even if he's a ghost, it's implied that it has something to do with Blake's shadow semblance. So Blake's semblance right here, you can see in this picture, is that she can create a shadow to kind of take hits to avoid taking damage, and it can also even be used as like diversionary tactics. And even if she can even throw dust into it to basically act like a very volatile whiz. So like if she mixes it with fire dust, it turns into like a mobile bomb and all that. And there's a lot she does with the semblance over the course of the seasons. But for context, it's implied that because Blake's semblance specifically works by having her aura leave her and take a congenial shape. Basically, aura in RWBY is basically like a sort of I guess you can call it mana in like an RPG mechanic. If they're basically there to like act as like a sort of like pseudo body shield. So like, oh, if someone would take like a life threatening injury, like say you get like like say Blake right here, she's like someone comes out with her with a bat and tries to hit her in the head. The aura will come around, would cover her head and tank the shot. She'll lose aura. Every huntress and hunter basically has a set amount of aura in their body that slowly refills. And if the aura breaks, then they kind of partially collapse. It's like, oh, my aura is broken, which means now like most attacks can like physically harm them, and they can even die from that. It basically just acts like a mobile shield for them, and they also use their semblance to like use aura to use their semblances. Most characters have a semblance. This is Blake's. RWBY has speed and all that stuff. The point is, it's implied because since Blake's or semblance allows her to take her personal aura, and move it and make it into its own body shape, that John basically kind of latched on to Blake's aura, and basically kind of just leeching off. And this is actually corroborated throughout the story where they're in Mountain Glen, and John actually gets separated. He's actually in the bear at the time, and Blake doesn't even know that John is there. And what happens is John kind of gets separated from everyone because uh, Teddy Bear John runs into Neo, and we get like a little funny Tom and Jerry skit where like Neo's just completely freaking out wordlessly. It's like, ha, I got you. Like Neo's just like looking at the bear that's just on her little umbrella sword thing, and she's like starts waving her sword, trying to get the bear off her. Like, get it off. What happens is Neo takes John to their base, thus separating the two. The rift happened. Basically, what happened at Mountain Glen is the White Thing, Blake's what Blake used to be part of, operated a train that was full of explosives to break open a mountain and lure like an entire army of Grimm into the city to basically overrun it. They were getting ready to stop the train when Blake actually started getting cardiac arrest. It's eventually revealed that if John is a certain distance away, basically if he's like in the teddy bear, that's the only way he can actually separate that distance. He actually starts like parasitically leeching off Blake's aura, and the longer the distance, the more aura starts to like leave her body and unable to like recoup, and that causes her body to like completely start to shut down. So she's like she physically cannot keep she cannot almost broke there. Blake cannot physically keep John that far away from her. She has to physically keep him by her, otherwise her body just completely shuts down. And that's just and she can't really control that. That being said, we do get an ending at the end where John does eventually get his own body back. And it's not his body; it's actually the Fall Maiden's body. He kind of possesses her body because it's like she's alive, but not really. There's nothing in her head because her psyche was like shattered. I think like dead. Like her mind is dead, but her body is not, like a coma sort of thing. And Blake's like now they can like actually walk together because now John is like absorbing the maiden's like passive aura itself instead of taking from Blake. I haven't even talked about Blake's side of the story. This was all just talking about John's side. Blake's side of the plot is basically centered on the idea of the Black Trailer. So the Blake Trailer, or otherwise known as the Black Trailer, is basically a sort of setting up, telling you who Blake Belladonna is as a character. It's basically a story of these two, Blake Belladonna and Adam Taurus, as they rob a train. She noticed basically Blake notices that Adam has gone too far. There's basically like a whole or he's taken over the White Fang more or less, and they become an extremist organization. Blake doesn't like that. Let me actually, yeah, right here. Like you can, like she's on the train, he's on the train. She realizes, gone too far. This is not what the White Fang has become, and so she separates the train. And so let's like here. So then Blake travels to Vale and to Beacon specifically to kind of hide out because she realized that Adam is probably hunting after her. So she basically goes to she goes to Beacon to hide. She hides the fact that she's a faunus. Like you can actually, if you actually see the clip, the bow she's wearing that's hiding her cat ears. Where was? Oh yeah, Blake wants equality for faunus. It's basically a big part of her character, but a large portion of the story basically borrows heavily from the actual canon. I think that's what From Beyond does very differently from a lot of Coer stories. Coer basically likes to take very heavily inspiration from like various events of the canon and twist them up to certain their narrative. He doesn't really try to stick to what happened as it happened. From Beyond, on the other hand, very much plays with that by having a lot of Blake's areas happen verbatim with canon, like the whole Black Trailer that actually happened. A lot of Blake's shenanigans that happened throughout the entire plot, like her trying to stop the White Fang, the White Fang rally, the whole Paladin assault, Mountain Glen. That's pretty much what happens in all those. Happen more or less the same within canon, which at least is very different because of how everything plays out. The only thing changes about Mountain Glen is the fact Blake's heart just starts to spaz out, and she immediately dies from it because she's separate from John. But even then, a big thing with this story is storytelling, specifically with Blake. So Blake's entire character arc from season 1 to 3 is basically the fact that Blake sees what happened with the White Thing. She's disgusted by it, but she doesn't really know what to do. And then she finds out that the White Thing are actually operating in Vale. So she feels that she was an was a White Thing member. Now she's not. She feels she's the only one that can really stop them. Like she's the only one who deserves to stop them because because she doesn't want anyone else getting hurt because this is her fight, and she feels that she thinks she kind of deserves. She can only really do this. It's kind of a very bog standard sort of like uh, getting out before the abyss claims you storyline. Like the whole if you look into the abyss stares into you, but Blake kind of gets out at the last minute while everyone else is swallowed up. The problem with Blake's character in canon, because I'm going to be talking about because this is actually important, is one, after season 3, they kind of don't know what to do with Blake. That's actually kind of a big problem with Blake Belladonna as a character in RWBY. Is like once Volume 3 ended, they just did not know what to do with her anymore. So what they did is like seasons 4, 5, and 6. They just copy pasted volumes 1, 2, and 3 story, and then just kind of switched it around with her teaming with Yang because this was around season 5, 6 was like around the time they started getting death threats from the RWBY shipping scene, saying put Bumblebee canon, make it canon. And then volume 7, 8, or 9, she basically just becomes Yang's bitch. Like she's reduced to just being Yang's love interest, and that kind of cratered at like the single most infamous story in like modern RWBY.
Gotta get home. Gotta help Jean. Gotta find someone who isn't just going to screw everything up. Gotta stay positive, right? Smiles all around. Maybe even finally get our feelings sorted out. Good for you, by the way. We're all so happy for you.
Yep, that's Blake Belladonna. Hiding behind Barbara Dunkelman's self-insert. You gotta love modern RWBY. It sucks. So Blake's character has a clear cut, and you think, it's Kohler. He's kind of like just gonna do the same. He's probably gonna do like, some wishy-washy thing, like change up the character. Here's the thing. There's another thing that makes From Beyond stand out from his other stories is Blake's character arc in this story, specifically only in the story, is the same. He doesn't really change Blake's character arc, changes her character, because now Blake now has like John, who's basically like kind of like being on her shoulder, because a big part of Blake's character in canon is the fact that she felt she had to do it alone. In this story, she's now not alone, but at the same time, she is still alone because only she can see John, and only she can really talk to John. No one else can see him. No one else can hear them. Eventually, later in the story, well, except for Penny. Penny does eventually find out, and Penny does like help not Weiss, Blake out with the situation, but that's like later in the story. But Blake's character arc is still pretty much the same. She still believes that she has to do this alone. She eventually coming to terms with the fact that she simply cannot. It just takes a different direction, because in this story, from a meta context, it's not in this chapter. It's actually in the second chapter, where it very much is shaped up like it's going to be, Gang, RWBY, Weiss, Liren, Nora, and Pyrrha are going to be very important to the story. But then as the story goes on, like just picking a chapter randomly, is they all kind of just disappear for large chunks of the story. For probably the majority of the story, it's literally just Blake and John. No one else. No one is really important. Like, they all become background characters, more or less, like side characters who just kind of like offer words and engagement. They try and get Blake to say, "Hey, we're a team. We You need to tell us this shit. It's like, okay, I'll tell you. It's like, John, I'm not gonna tell him. Like, Blake. Because now, unlike in canon, where, she kind of was alone, now she has John. She's still technically alone, but she now has John helping her out. So like in season 2, when the White Thing actually starts showing up, Blake actually physically gets tired. Like, we even get like a little moment where, like, there's a moment in season 2 where like Blake's in the library doing research, and then she gets distracted by a laser pointer that's being used by Yang, and she just falls it like a cat, because of course she is. But in From Beyond, John basically tells her, it's like, hey, I'm in despair, I can't really sleep, so how about a deal? You get some sleep during the night, I will go do research, that way you can, that way if I find anything, I'll let you know in the morning. And Blake actually agrees with that. So she doesn't get sleep deprivation, so she does not making a lot of the same mistakes she does in canons, like when Blake's fighting the Paladin in canon, Roman actually pilots the Paladin into the city because she panics and her sleep deprivation kind of just messes everything up. But in here, since she's well rested, she's able to think things through, and so she actually keeps the Paladin sequestered to the dock so that way people don't get hurt. So it's very small changes, but the main meat and potatoes of Blake's character arc specifically does not change. She still has to learn that she can't rely on everything alone. That she has to get people to help her. She has to connect. She has to fully connect with Team RWBY. It's just told in a different framing. With John basically kind of just helping her and kind of like telling her, it's like, no, don't do this, but also kind of egging her on, sort of deal. It's a neat character arc because Blake's, I think, out of all the team RWBY in like the first 3 seasons, Blake was actually, I think actually had the best arc, followed by Weiss, and of course she fell off afterwards. So I think Blake's character is really well done in the context of the story. It's Blake's character doesn't change a lot. It's just an overall solid character that didn't really need to be changed with the context of the story. John's character, however, is completely different. Since he's a ghost, he kind of just loses his filter. So this version of John is just an unrepented sex pest. Like his first action finding out he's a ghost. It's like, oh, wait, they're taking off their clothes because they're in team. Blake is like inside her room with like the other girls, and Yang's like, okay, I'm gonna take a shower. Like, wait, Blake, let me go in there. And he's like trying to get in there, but he physically can't. Like, her bed and the door is like just far enough that he can't physically get inside because it's like the whole border, the whole thing. It's like, no. And of course, and then we get like a brick joke at the end later when he's actually possessing the bear. The first thing he does, go into the shower while Yang is showering. He's like, I have seen the pigs, and they are glorious. And that's more of John's more or less character. He still has a character arc with him kind of having to relearn how to like filter himself because like, okay, we're trying to get like myself a new body, and him actually starting to care about Blake. I think it's really well done. It's a more simplistic romance when it comes to John and Blake, and a large part of that has to do with John not really being a ladies' man, so he's kind of taking it very slowly and very awkwardly because like him realizing there's probably a chance I'll never get a body, and Blake's like falling in love with him. He's trying and realizing, hey, actually have a chance of getting a body, so it's like, let's take it slow, just take it calmly. Let's just have some fun. And can I place my face in your butt, John? Sorry, force of habit. Forgive me. Please forgive me. That's better. All right. And it has a lot. It has its moments I don't like the humor from John's situation because it causes like a lot of sex jokes. I I, I don't get why Koer likes to over like. I know Koer uses sex jokes. He usually uses like innuendos, like someone says something and like, oh, I'm trying to make this like innocent thing, what someone else thinks is like a dirty joke. But it's really overused in the story. It really is, and a lot is like poor John and poor Blake. At least in this one, it's Blake at least like kind of knows that people's mind are going in the gutters, and she's trying to actively stop it. But it doesn't work, especially when you got like Blake say, "Okay, I want you to make this guy a ghost." All right, sex toy. There we go. No, I'm not asking for a sex robot. But why else would you want a body for him besides the sex? So he can have a body? Oh, all right. We'll make sure we'll make it 16 inches. Mr. Paladina, Professor Paladina, here, hold this cucumber. I'll stop the cameras. It's it's really overused here. Continuing on with John's character, I do think it's very simple. It's very well balanced. Uh, him kind of slightly getting slightly more confident and trying to uh, kind of will they won't they sort of deal. Although at the end it's kind of weird because now John's in like a female's body. It's like, well, are we gonna actually? No, we're not. Let's lay off the sex idea. All right, John, are you touching your boobs? Maybe. Oh, come on! Every guy would want to do this if given the chance. You would do the same. You would do the same if you were a guy. It's like, no, I won't. So, and the story kind of like him using it as like a coping mechanism is really well done. His it's kind of hard to judge John's character because again, this is a more simplistic story than a lot of Koer's other works. Like Koer really likes to do really complex and complicated shit. So when I first read this story and I realized how simplistic it is compared to all the other stories he's written, I reviewed are, it's like so weird. Grammar wise, I think the grammar is fine. Pacing, uh, I will say this is like his only story where you kind of need to watch the first three seasons, because all his other stories besides Forged Destiny, because that's like a completely different universe, do show a lot of the events of all the really important events from seasons 1 to 3, but From Beyond very much glosses over it to focus specifically on Blake and John's relationship. So you really need to connect the dots on a lot of stuff that's happening, and so you need to watch the 3 volumes. It's really the only story I could think of that would probably you would have to, because all the important stuff is just very glossed over. The dock attacks. Hell, Moses Volume 1 is just completely just doesn't have you don't read it. Most of the story takes place during just with Cardin bullying Blake, and then after that it's just straight into season 2 and then season 3. So you would really need to watch those 3 seasons to kind of get what's going on, or kind of just figure out the context clues of the story itself. I think it at least it's different because again, there's a reason why it's glossing over a lot of stuff because it's exclusively focusing on the relationship between Blake and John. I think the relationship is really well done and really entertaining from Blake more or less being the straight woman to John's perverted actions. But Blake's also very perverted because of course Blake is perverted. She reads smut. She reads filth. Filth. But I don't. But yeah, I don't really see it as like being one of his best stories. Like it's definitely not as good as like Professor Arc or Captain Dragon or Not This Time Fate. But I certainly think it's way better to like Headmaster Arc and Forest Destiny. God forbid everything better than Forest Destiny. At this point, every single RWBY fic is gonna be better than that fucking trash heap. Yeah, every time I'm gonna talk about RWBY, I'm gonna throw a dig to that fic. Just just why? But going back to this, I do think this is a perfectly solid story. It's not spectacular, but I do think it gets the job on telling the story that it wants to tell. I think the story itself is solid. Blake and John are very well executed. The pacing is really well done. The sentence structure is really well done. Again, you would need to watch the first 3 seasons. I'm pretty sure you can watch them on YouTube, unless Rooster Teeth took them off, because I know Rooster took a lot of RWBY off to put on their website for you to pay. And I don't know if that extends towards the first 3 seasons, so I'm not 100% sure if you'll be able to watch them on YouTube. It is what it is. Do I have a favorite part? Probably. Honestly, I like the bait and switch with John and Penny at the end of the story. Mr. Paladin is like basically the VTOL festival is happening. Roman has basically hacked the battleship where that is controlling like the AI controlled paladins. And Professor Palladina, Penny's creator, kind of dies. But before he dies, he like looks at the robotic John that he built, and yes, it still has the 16-inch, and it wakes up. It's like, oh, John's awake. Oh, that's gonna be cool. And then come the battle of this is I don't know. This is especially pertinent because like right before that happens, Neo basically picks up the teddy bear John and throws it off the plane. Throws it off the battleship, but the mini bear John had like a little device allowing him to specifically to transfer his soul into the robot because Blake's like down on the like thousands of feet on the ground. So it's really built up. It's like, okay, John woke up, got his body. He's gonna find out. He's gonna fight Adam, and so John actually fights Adam, and like he turns around. He's like, Blake sees the eyes because John's eyes when he's possessed of something, there's like a blue fire, but instead of a blue fire, it's a green fire. It's like, who the and then you hear John say salutations. And it's like, Penny? Yes. How'd you know? But how? It's like my father made a backup. And Blake's just like legitimately confused. Like, okay, so now you're in a robotic guy's body. My boyfriend is in a chick's body. It's a little funny moment. Another moment could be like all of John and Neo's interaction because that comes off as like something from Looney Tunes. Like Neo be like completely terrified, like moving bear, but she can't speak, so it's like. It's really entertaining. Is there anything I would fix? There's something I would really fix. I would say it's really weird that this story doesn't really have a sequel because this story kind of does end sort of on a cliffhanger because during the events, basically Cinder blows up the machine that would transfer the Maiden's power to Pyrrha. However, Cinder breaks it and kind of pierces John, and that causes his soul to go into the Maiden's body. So he's now the Maiden, and Cinder still has like half, like part of the Maiden's power. So John and Cinder kind of come in blows. John has to rely on the Maiden's power because he's not a fighter, and he's like, and the fact that the body's like very atrophied from being like in stasis for so long. But he manages to wear down Cinder to the point where like, draw. It's like, you're willing to do a draw instead of killing me. It's like, I'm tired. I don't think I'll be able to finish you off. Will you be able to finish me off? No, I take that as a no. You leave. We won't. I won't kill you. We regroup each other, and then sometime in the future we'll go off on each other again. You'll be hunted for the rest of your life. Said I'm willing to take that risk. And so he actually willingly lets Cinder leave Beacon in the hopes of, like, because John physically won't be able to kill her, but he also knows Cinder won't be able to kill him because they're just too they're just like, at worst they'll probably just slap each other a few times and then pass out. And John needs to focus on trying to save Blake from Adam, uh, which he eventually does. I think like Adam's the only character who actually dies, and that's from uh how does he kill him? How does he kill Adam? Oh, he basically like tricks Adam into like getting close. It's like, oh yeah, you're gonna kill me? Said, yeah. How? Look up. See like a massive thundercloud just basically one gigantic lightning strike into Adam's chrome and basically just fries him. I and after that it's like them realizing, well, like since like, well, if people are gonna hunt you, you're gonna have to go on your own. And it's like John basically like, you will suck it. It's like, John, you don't have a, oh right, I gotta get used to like female euphemisms, right? Yeah. So the story kind of ends on like a cliffhanger, like Cinder still being out there. The fact that now John is like in a female body. There's still the possibility, like the first thing he did when he like get his own body would be going back home to tell like his family I'm still alive. There's a whole thing with Penny and John, like Robot John's body. There's a lot you can do with the world that is honestly really interesting that you kind of expand upon. And said, what's the story that got a sequel? Professor Arc. Granted, that story kind of needed a sequel too, but the story that wasn't the sequel that we got. It was just, Mommy Salami, help me. But I do think like the only thing that really needs to be added is a sequel. Like we need to see John and Blake go visit John's parents, like have them meet Nicholas and the family and all that. Probably like there's probably like be a bunch of sex jokes. I know like apparently Koa also always writes one of John's sisters is like an erotica author. I don't know. This does. The whole thing with Robo John, there's still like finishing with things with Cinder. There's the fact that Pierre is still alive, Cardin, the whole revelation, like what's gonna happen with Pet, now that Johnson has like a whole body, like will he be able to like be at certain distance? Probably like a bunch of sex jokes. Cause it gotta be a sex joke, so it's a co-war story. And lots of other stuff. There's a lot. There's just so much that is left behind that it's not really finished. That I do think that this story deserves to be this story specifically deserves to be continued. I do like it, but outside of that, anything in this story, not really. I mean, you can make an argument for like Professor Palladena's death because like he kind of gets stabbed to the chest by Neo, and then he's just randomly walking down the very next scene. He's like walking down a hallway, and he gets riddled with bullets, so he can see Robo John's eyes open. But it's like, okay, you can make an argument that at least makes sense because she probably didn't kill him because they never really specified where she stabbed him. Just that she stabbed him in the chest. So yeah, I don't really have anything more to say about From Beyond. I do think it's a solid story. It's nothing great, but there's nothing in the story I would consider bad. This has been Dark Symphony 777, and cut.